everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everyone for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. It is Tuesday, May 27, 2025. I wanted to come here and share this story with you guys. It's a very sad story and I'm gonna give you a trigger warning, and this is regarding the mother who was beaten about just 2 weeks ago, I think almost 2 weeks ago, in New York City. Before I continue, of course, I want to say thank you to everybody who's listening using Spotify. Don't forget to follow me there, and thank you so much everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube. I know people are complaining about they can barely hear me. I don't know what it is. I'm very soft spoken and I tend to speak very, not like I don't know if it's whispering, but I'm very soft spoken, and you know, if like, it's so weird, like you get used to speaking a certain noise level, a certain level, so it's kind of hard to like adjust. I'll try to speak louder. That's what I'm trying to say, but I just wanted to say I will also try to adjust the volume as I do the video for YouTube, so I do apologize about that. Hopefully in the future I'll get to get a better microphone. Okay, so you guys, you know, we're living in very difficult times. I'm saying these things just to kind of bring awareness, not to for anybody to live in fear, nothing like this, right? But anything can happen, right? We're living in a world that people are going through very difficult things, right? People losing their jobs, people dealing with mental health. Some people were saying, like, I was watching some people saying how sometimes they're up and they're like ready to go and happy, and then the next day they don't want to do anything. And I'm laughing because we all kind of like can relate to things like that. I came here yesterday and told you that this past weekend I just didn't feel like doing anything. I'm like, I don't want to do it, you know. And like I said, I'm always been very self-driven and things like this, but I just didn't feel like it. And all I needed was like a little rest. Okay, sometimes that's all you need. That's when you can tell you overdone yourself. You need rest. Sometimes we get so frustrated and it comes out. When frustration is evident in your life or the life of anybody, it shows up somehow, and what we are dealing with internally will always manifest and we will always say it, right? And that's why you have to, you know, it's okay to rest. We don't have to be on the go all the time producing and creating things. I'm saying this to myself too. Being a creator, you feel like, you know, if I don't post this like this time, I'm gonna miss out, right? We always have to remember that God is in control, and that's it, right? So like I said, trigger warning, this story, when I first heard about it, guys, it crushed me. I was like, I saw a young daughter on the news, right, crying out, saying that she, you know, her mom is all she has. Basically, they came here, they're immigrants. The mom has worked very hard. She worked at a museum, and her schedule was kind of like late, and then her son had gotten a bicycle for her. That way she didn't have to walk so much, you know, going to work and back. And then one day, I believe it was May 16, she was just returning home from work, and she got stabbed by this man, and she got beaten to the point that right now she's in life support. And it's just so heartbreaking to hear something like this. Just a normal law-abiding citizen, just providing for her children, has to go through something like this, right? It's a frustration just by seeing something like this happen to somebody who's so innocent. Like, you know, when you go out of your house to work, and what do we all say when we're working outside of our home? We always say things like, I can't wait to go home. And if, you know, she's a mom, right, I'm sure she's like, I can't wait to go home and with my kids. I don't want them to be by themselves. I gotta go home and like prepare for the next day, whatever, right? And like, then she's gonna get stabbed by this man, and she's gonna get beat up to the point that right now she's on life support. Something's like, you cannot even believe it, but this happens a lot, right? And it's so sad that people have to go through something like this, right? And that's why you have to somehow get yourself to learn about stories that people are going through. Maybe come together. This is why I like sharing stories like this, because even though, in my case, I'm not related to them. I don't know who they are really. I just know what happened to the mom, right? And I sympathize by that, and I want to help out somehow. And helping out could also just be praying for them, right? Praying for a prompt recovery, praying that God will put a person in their way to help this family out, praying by donating to the GoFundMe campaign. That's why I picked this story too, because they do have a campaign right now that we as a community, even like you don't need to live in New York City to help out. That's always like sometimes things are only relevant to us if they're happening outside our window, and that is so wrong, because we can help in so many ways, right? We can help, like I said, donating to the GoFundMe account, praying for the family, and just praying that she gets, that she gets healed and gets to go back to her family. I mean, it was just so heartbreaking to see the daughter crying on TV for her mom. This young person going through something so dramatic like this, and you need to understand it's a single mother who the only provider for that family just got beat up and is ended up in a coma right now on life support, right? And then the kids are like, that's the mom was the provider for them. You cannot help but to sympathize with them, right? Let me read to you briefly exactly what happened to her. I'll try to be selective on what, in the details, because I know it's very hard. It says here that somebody was arrested. So like I told you, this happened on May 16, and his name is Miguel Girard, who is being held without bail in the brutal beating that happened to Diana Agudelo on May 16. He was caught on surveillance video apparently throwing the victim's e-bike into the Harmlet River. Harmlet, I can pronounce Harmlet today. Harmlet River at 11:36 p.m. the day of the attack. So it's like, what was the point of hitting? Like, you going to beat her up, right? I'm sure she was just, riding her bike to get home around after 11:30 p.m. in New York City. That mom was just trying to get home. And then she comes in encounter with this man who is gonna beat her up, right? This innocent woman, beat her up to the point that she's on life support, and he's gonna take the bike and throw it on the Harmlet River. Like what? That's his life? That's what he's doing with his life? It's just like, wow, that's crazy. So the day, roughly 6 minutes after she left her job, 6 minutes after this mom was just clocking out of work, making her way to her house, and she works at the Museum of City of New York, according to the complaint. So Girard, this is the guy who did it, allegedly ambushed her and savagely beat her. And she, her age is 44 years old, excuse me. And she rode the e-bike down an isolated path near the East 125th Street on Randall Island, leaving her clinging for her life right now. And 15 minutes after he appeared to throw the bike into the water, Girard was seen on the footage approaching the Help USA homeless shelter on Sunken Garden Loop from the direction of the shoreline. And then somebody said, I then observed the defendant enter the shelter. It's like this guy living in a shelter, sees a mom riding the bike, just basically doing her, just living her life, doing her thing, trying to get home. He leaves the shelter, beats her up, leaves her on the floor like an animal, right? It's just so terrifying. I can't even say it. Does all of that, throws her bike. This woman has done nothing to this guy. Throws her bike into the river and then walks back to the shelter. Like, that is your life? Wow. 6 seriously, when something like this happening, that's the enemy at work. It's crazy. It says here that he had a GPS ankle monitor, which was a condition of his parole after he was serving 12 years in prison for many things that I don't want to share here, right? Because it's very there's no need to share all of that. You can only imagine he went to jail for 12 years, right? He was serving that. So the bike was recovered by scuba divers in the water. The 44-year-old victim was found between the rocks on the shoreline just north of the bridge early the next morning. So you need to understand, that bike was given to her by her I believe it was her son, right? So because he didn't want his mom to be walking so much at night. It's like, if I give her a bike, it will be faster for her to do that commute, right? She is the sole provider for them, and they're waiting for her to come back from work, right? Imagine what went through the kid's mind, waiting for the mom who never got home that night. She was found the next morning. So the guy's GPS also put him in the area where the victim was found, according to the complaint. So Agudelo was taken to Elmhurst Hospital and remains hospitalized with multiple brain bleeds and multiple skull fractures, a brain shift, abrasions and cuts on her back, and a penetrating wound to her left temple. She may not regain consciousness. Her heartbroken daughter Stephanie wrote that said Friday she needed 2 surgeries, including one in which the doctor had to remove part of her brain that was detached during the beating. So, wow, that's I can only imagine what the family's going through. They're about to do another surgery on her, but it would have been deadly at this point. The heartbroken 21-year-old said, adding to that the doctors were putting her mom on medication to stop her brain activity. And also, it says here that this guy, Giro, who also called for help, he called the 911, said to himself, he reported the attack, right? It's almost like he felt kind of like, I did something horrible here. He was sent to Rikers Island without bail on an attempted murder charge. And this guy, they're saying he's the one who called for help, right? I'm sure, it's almost like when you see people do something like this, it's like they go out of like their self, I guess, I don't know. And then they realize what they did, and they're like, what just happened? And they're like, oh, I'm gonna report what happened. Maybe they will never look into me or something, right? They kind of feel this instant, I guess, regret, I guess. But now, I know there was a footage when he was arrested. He was being removed from the prison, going to be transferred to Rikers Island. He was screaming and yelling, saying that it wasn't him, that all he did was try to help. But you need to understand, though, they have footage of him throwing the bike. They have evidence that it was him, right? So right now, you guys, like I said, this is a very sad story, and we can pray for the family, right? I'm gonna leave the link for the GoFundMe campaign. You need to understand, this mom was the only provider for the children, right? Single parent. So any donations will really help the family. I'm gonna leave the link. It's the official GoFundMe campaign. I already read through it, and you can see there's a lot of people donating. I'm sure every little thing that you can donate will help them. She's still in the hospital, is still going through all the surgeries like I just read to you guys. So keep them in your prayers tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening in the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. this is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.